Welcome to my channel. Listen to my stories every day. Comment, like and subscribe to my channel. Enjoy listening. At 48, I considered myself more than just a brush and canvas. My life was a palette where every shade of experience deepened the texture of my work. The institute where I had honed my craft also gifted me Amy, my muse, my love, the very soul I captured in every stroke. On this crisp autumn morning, our apartment buzzed with the gentle chaos of creativity. Sunlight spilled through the open windows, catching the flecks of paint that dotted my forearms as I added the finishing touches to a portrait of Amy. She sat across the room, the morning light accentuating her thoughtful eyes, the kind that seemed to dance between shades of joy and melancholy, a dichotomy that often made its way into my paintings. "Still think you can capture me?" Thomas. Amy's voice broke through my concentration, a playful smirk playing on her lips. I chuckled, stepping back to survey the canvas. I'm getting closer every day. But there's always something elusive, something that keeps me guessing. She rose and walked over, her gaze fixating on the painting. It's beautiful, but there's a sadness in these eyes. Do I really look that way? I wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. It's not just sadness, it's depth, it's complexity. It's you, Amy, every part of you. Later that day, as I prepared to head to the gallery, Amy kissed me goodbye, her lips lingering a bit longer than usual. Good luck today. Remember, every critic has their own perspective. The gallery was bustling with activity, the air thick with critiques and admiration. My heart raced as I watched the influential art critic, Edward Marin, approach my display. His reputation for making and breaking careers with a single word preceded him. He studied the painting of Amy intently, his eyes narrowing, then turning cold. Silence stretched between us, suffocating. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely a whisper yet sharp enough to shatter glass. "Falsity," he declared, and walked away. The word struck me like a physical blow. Falsity? In what way? My art was honest, a reflection of my deepest emotions and the woman I loved. Confused and disheartened, I returned home, the critic's word echoing in my mind. Days turned into weeks, and the word falsity haunted me. My brush felt heavy, my inspirations clouded with doubt. I poured my confusion and hurt into my work, not understanding the weight of Marin's judgment until the day the truth splattered across my life as vividly as the paints on my canvas. It was supposed to be a normal evening. Amy had mentioned she'd be out with friends. The artists' festival in Paris had ended unexpectedly early, so I returned home to find the apartment unsettlingly silent. With a heaviness in my chest, I diverted to my studio, craving the solace of my art. The scene before me was surreal, a vivid tableau of betrayal. There, amidst the chaos of colors and overturned paint cans, was Amy with someone I had never seen before. They were entwined, oblivious to the world, their actions painting a stark, irrefutable truth onto my unfinished canvas of us. My heart stopped, not just at the sight of betrayal, but at the ruin of my art, my soul laid bare and spoiled. In that moment, all the love, the years, the portraits, condensed into a single, searing realization. Marin was right. It was all falsity, my art, my love, my life. The echo of that word, falsity, now resonated with a clarity that was cruel and unforgiving. As I stood there, the colors of my world shifting, a dark resolve began to form. It was time to paint a new picture, one that would reveal the stark truth for all to see. The acrid smell of paint fumes mixes with the shock that grips me as I stand frozen at the doorway of my studio. Amy and the stranger hastily cover themselves, their expressions morphing from shock to shame. The ruined canvas beneath them, a once hopeful depiction of our love, now serves as the backdrop for their deceit. "Amy, what is this?" My voice is unsteady, a mixture of rage and disbelief. "Thomas, I can explain," she stammers, clutching a discarded shirt to her chest. The stranger, a lanky man with disheveled hair, scrambles to his feet, mumbling apologies I barely register. My eyes are fixed on Amy, the muse of my greatest works, now the architect of my greatest pain. "No need, Amy." I think the scene speaks for itself. I turn away, unable to stomach the sight any longer. As I step out into the cool evening air, my mind races. The world seems to tilt, reality skewing into a grotesque parody of my former life. Days bleed into each other. I avoid the studio, the sight of paint and canvas too raw a reminder of betrayal. Instead, I roam the streets of our neighborhood, seeking solace in the anonymity of crowded cafes and bustling markets. It's in one such market that I run into Mark, an old friend from the Institute and a fellow artist. Thomas. I heard about the festival. How did it go? Mark's voice pulls me back to the present. Could have been better, I reply tersely, not ready to dive into the murky waters of my personal torment. Mark frowns, sensing my discomfort. You look like hell, man. Want to grab a coffee and talk about it? I hesitate, then nod. Over coffee, the words spill out. I tell Mark everything from Marin's damning critique to the devastating tableau in my studio. Mark listens, his expression a mix of anger and sympathy. That critic was out of line. But Amy. Man, that's rough, Mark says after a pause. He leans forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You know, this could be a turning point for you. Why not use this? Paint your truth, Thomas. Show them what you're made of. His words ignite something within me, a flicker of purpose amidst the ruin. Paint my truth, I echo, the idea taking root. In the days that follow, I throw myself into my work with a frenzied passion. I start a new canvas, larger and more ambitious than any before. This one isn't about Amy, or at least, not the Amy I thought I knew. It's raw, chaotic, a swirling mass of dark hues and jagged lines that capture the turmoil inside me. As I work, I feel a presence behind me. Turning, I see Ella, a young artist who rents a space across the hall. Her eyes are wide as she takes in the scale of my new project. Thomas, this is intense, she says, struggling for the right words. It's my truth, I reply, my voice steady despite the storm depicted on the canvas. Ella nods, her gaze lingering on the painting. It's powerful. People need to see this. Her words cement my resolve. I will show this work, not in a hidden corner of a local gallery, but on a grand stage. Let the world see the truth behind the falsity, the raw edges of a soul laid bare. As Ella leaves, I pick up my brush again, each stroke a line in the story I'm rewriting. Not just of betrayal, but of rebirth. The real journey, I realize, is just beginning. Chapter 3: Unveiling Truths. The grand unveiling looms just a week away, and the buzz around my latest creation grows palpable. Invitations sent, critics alerted, the art world stirs with anticipation, curious about the transformative work of Thomas Blake, an artist reborn from personal calamity. As I apply the final strokes, my studio door swings open, a gust of crisp autumn air announcing the arrival of Claire, a seasoned art dealer known for her sharp eye and even sharper tongue. Thomas, darling, everyone is talking. You've stirred up quite the frenzy, Claire declares, her eyes immediately drawn to the chaotic canvas. It needed to be done, Claire. This piece, it's my catharsis, I explain, stepping back to join her in observation. Claire studies the painting, her nod slow, contemplative. It's visceral, Thomas. It bleeds emotion. People will either love it or hate it, but they will not ignore it. That's the point, I affirm, feeling a strange mixture of nerves and excitement knotting in my stomach. 2 days later, the gallery is a hive of activity. Lights are adjusted, wine glasses polished to a gleam, and my painting draped under a velvet cover stands as the centerpiece, its unveiling eagerly awaited. As guests begin to fill the gallery, murmurs of speculation weave through the air. I spot Amy at the edge of the crowd, her presence like a shadow at the periphery of my vision. Her eyes lock onto mine, a silent plea evident in their depths, but I turn away, focusing on the faces coming to support, or perhaps to criticize, my new direction. The clock strikes 8 and Claire signals me. It's time. I step forward, the murmurs crescendoing into a palpable silence. My hand trembles slightly as I reach for the cloth, then steadies. With a swift motion, the veil lifts and the painting is exposed. The collective gasp fills the room, followed by a stunned silence. The canvas before them a tumult of dark, swirling colors, stark angles, and haunting faces commands attention. It's not just a painting, it's a story of betrayal, pain, and the raw pursuit of truth. Thomas, what inspired this? A voice cuts through the silence. It's Edward Marin, his critical gaze fixed on the artwork. Life, I start, my voice clear and steady. Life inspired this. The realization that what we see, what we live, can be deceiving. This painting represents the unveiling of truth, the stripping away of facade. Murmurs ripple through the crowd again, this time with a tone of understanding, perhaps even respect. Amy makes her way through the crowd, stopping a few feet away from me. It's powerful, Thomas, she says quietly, her voice almost lost amidst the buzz. It's honest, I reply, meeting her gaze. Something I needed to express. The evening wears on, filled with discussions, debates, and a surprising number of accolades. Mark slaps my back, a wide grin on his face. You've done it, my friend. You've turned pain into something monumental. As the crowd thins, Claire approaches with a sly smile. Well, I hope you're prepared, Thomas. Offers are pouring in. This piece, it's not just going to hang in someone's living room. It's going to make headlines. I nod, feeling a sense of relief and vindication. The night air feels lighter as I step outside, the weight of past betrayals less burdensome. Whether through the love I lost or the truth I painted, my life has found a new canvas. And on it, I begin to sketch a future unfettered by the past's shadows. The weeks following the unveiling pass in a blur of interviews, gallery visits, and an ever-growing buzz around my latest work. My painting, dubbed The Unveiling Truth, doesn't just sell, it ignites a firestorm, setting new records and redefining my career. Yet, amidst the flurry of success, a part of me remains unsettled, overshadowed by the remnants of betrayal. As autumn deepens into winter, I find myself wandering the city more often, walking through frost-lined streets, my breath a mist before me. It's on one such evening, as the city lights flicker to life, that I decide to visit the old institute where Amy and I first met. There's a pull to return to where it all began, a need to understand the cycle of inspiration and deception. The institute is quiet, the halls echoing with the faint sounds of distant lectures and the scratch of charcoal on paper. As I pass a familiar classroom, the door ajar, a voice stops me cold. Remember, art is not just about what you create. It's about what you invoke in others, the professor says, a hint of nostalgia in his tone. Peering inside, I'm struck by a sudden urge to speak to him. After the class disperses, I knock on the door. Professor Martin, I call out as he looks up, his face registering surprise. Thomas Blake. My word, I've been following your recent success. What brings you here? I step inside. The smells of paint and turpentine a balm to my restless spirit. I guess I'm seeking some answers, or maybe just closure. Professor Martin gestures to a seat, his eyes thoughtful. Closure can be elusive in our line of work, Thomas. What's on your mind? I hesitate, then the words pour out. I tell him about Amy, the betrayal, and how it led to the creation of my most successful piece yet. I just can't shake the feeling that there's something more, something I'm missing. The professor listens intently, then stands and walks over to a cabinet, pulling out an old photo album. He flips through it, stopping on a page that shows a much younger Amy with another student. You see, Amy was always more complex than she appeared. Do you know the young man with her? That's Julian, a promising student who vanished mysteriously years ago. I study the photo, a chill running down my spine. Vanished. Yes, left one day and never returned. His style was unique, quite radical actually, somewhat reminiscent of your recent work. A puzzle begins to piece itself together in my mind, a missing link that I hadn't dared to consider. Professor, could it be possible that Amy was somehow involved in his disappearance? He shrugs, a sad smile on his face. Art school breeds intense emotions, Thomas. Passions can lead to remarkable creations, or destructive ends. Leaving the institute, my mind races. The connections between Amy, Julian, and the art they both loved now paint a different picture, one of potential jealousy and hidden truths. A few days later, an unexpected visitor appears at my studio. It's Amy, her eyes weary, her posture resigned. "Thomas, I need to tell you something about Julian," she begins, her voice trembling. "He didn't just leave, he was scared away. By me." I freeze, every brush stroke suspended in time. Scared away? Why? Because he saw something in me that I didn't want to see in myself. He thought my art was a lie, just like Edward Marin did, and when he confronted me, I panicked. I told him he'd never make it, that he should leave and never come back. Your confession hangs in the air, heavy like the scent of oil paint. And the truth in your painting, it wasn't just about us, it was about him too. Somehow, you captured all the pain, all the secrets. As Amy leaves, a profound sense of clarity settles over me. My next painting starts that night not with a plan, but with an emotion. This piece is different. It's a tribute to hidden truths, to the lost potential of Julian, and to my own rebirth. When the echoes of the unseen is unveiled months later, it doesn't just speak, it screams, resonating with a raw, unfiltered truth that art, like life, is never just surface deep. It's about the layers hidden beneath, waiting to be discovered, understood, and finally set free.